My pleasure. Welcome back to the program. She's running for City Council in Ward 1. Jessica Stalder joins me on the program. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. What's been going on since the last time that we talked just a few weeks back? Kind of characterize how things have been here.
So last night, was Halloween, and I had a great time. I went to the Connor Hotel, apartments, and some other places downtown, and I handed out candy, and I got to talk to a lot of young voters, millennials, teddy bears, vampires, and just kind of get a different perspective. It was really fun to do that kind of reverse trick-or-treating kind of thing. And I just think it's so rewarding. I've been doing a lot of knocking on doors, just meeting people, talking to them, and that's what's been going on. What's
been some of the bigger issues that they've, maybe brought up to you in terms of knocking on doors and chat with people?
Yeah, we talked a lot about the roads in West Laramie last time. That's obviously still an issue. There's been a lot of people that have kind of chimed in or commented on some of the gateway improvements that the city is making, doing the medians on 3rd Street. So, that's been a topic of conversation.
Yeah. Well, in 3rd Street, let's see, we get Grand Avenue done next year, but then they're looking at 3rd Street for 2019 and trying to make some improvements. Is YDOT. I know people always complain about Grand Avenue and 3rd Street and some of the the potholes here or there, but you got to realize that's a state-controlled highway. That's kind of the business access highways, and so with that, they control those avenues, and then the city has nothing to do with that. Although there's a working relationship and partnership that you have to have for something like that. When it comes to those type of situations with what YDOT wants to do on Grand or on 3rd Street in the future, should you get elected, what would you try and do in terms of listening to constituents here in Laramie, but also realizing that YDOT controls that project and the money? I guess what would that conversation be like for someone if you were elected?
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to know who's in charge of what. And when I talk to people, that's the biggest misconception, is they think, oh, the city is doing this or the city is doing that. But as you mentioned, there are a lot of different players at the table, and I think it's just important to explain that and where money is coming from and where it has to go, because it's a certain pot of money. But I think the city is a player there, and it's important to get buy-in from business owners and homeowners and people who drive on the street every day. So when the city is being part of that conversation, they're representing everyone that lives here.
Absolutely. So obviously roads are big here in this. You brought up the gateway improvements. That's something that I've heard about for years. People that come in, they like to visit Laramie. They come here for sometimes sporting events, sometimes recreation, other things. But it's not always, maybe if you're just passing by, the best looking place to enter. How do we go about that, improving that given financial situations? What would you like to see done to make things a little bit more welcoming on some of our exits that we do have?
Sure. I talked to somebody that was a UW professor and moved here from a bigger city, and said when he drove into town, his wife just started crying, like, oh gosh, this is where we're going to live. So I think there's really something important about looking at those gateways and what does Laramie look like when you drive into town. But I also think, we're kind of spending a lot of money on those gateway improvements right now. And to me, what's really important is to focus on, we have a lot of empty buildings downtown. And it doesn't matter, how many trees or how pretty it looks when you drive into town. When you're seeing all these empty businesses, right on the main drag there, that's what we need to focus on first, and kind of make it pretty afterwards. But we need to look at what we can do for those spots that don't have businesses. And I've gotten some really cool ideas from people. I talked a lot about doing a pop-up shop, or different pop-up shops. So that's like, a business that would just come in and operate for a month, so like one of those Halloween stores or something like that. And I think that's a really good idea, kind of makes for a more vibrant community. And we talked last time about online retail and how hard it is to compete with that.
Right.
But somebody had a place in town they could go buy their Halloween costume, maybe they check that out first before Amazon. So kind of looking at some non-traditional ways to fill up those buildings first. And then we look at, what does the gateway look like? How do we make it better? But we got to focus on the actual meat and potatoes before we look at landscaping, that kind of thing.
Yeah, are there any other, in terms of that economic piece to it, are there any other ideas that you would like to see maybe come to fruition, or you would bring to the table if elected, in terms of trying to lessen the empty buildings or bring a variety of different industries in to go about that big topic in the state right now, which is economic diversification.
Right. Yeah, and so we need to look at, tourism seems to be, the other side of economic diversification. And, how do we get people here for reasons other than, they're in the oil and gas industry or something like that? So I think when you're looking at what you put in those buildings, we got to reach out and say, what do people want? Like, what are they visiting in other cities? Is it temporary? Is it retail? Is it entertainment? An escape room or something like that? And just look at, what draws people, even if it's temporary. And then we need to make it easy for those businesses to operate in terms of like Uniform Development Code and that kind of thing.
Do you feel there's a lot of red tape right now?
I do.
So how do we go about fixing that? Is it just a matter of kind of sifting through the code, or I'm just trying to pick your brain here.
Sure.
If you get elected next
Sure.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
and what voters can kind of expect from you?
Sure. I think the thing from talking to business owners that is a common complaint is they don't really understand what's expected from the city. They might talk to planning and then talk to code enforcement, and they think they need to do something else, and they do it, and then we also have to do these other things. And so I think what's really important is just to get all those people at the table, make it clear to a business owner what they got to do business, and stick to that.
What else? What are some other ideas that you really want to bring to the table if you get elected next Tuesday?
On city council, I don't think I'm going to change the world. What I really want to do is just communicate well with other government, officials, people at the city, people in the county, and just be open to making progress rather than making it about my personal agenda.
Do you feel that there's maybe a little butting heads in this community in terms of officials to other officials, whether it's city to city, city to county, whatever it might be in terms of that relationship? Do you get that sense right now?
Yeah, I don't think it's a, overwhelming problem or anything like that, but I have heard some of that, and I think it's important just to be open, willing to hear people out and say, what's our goal and how can we both work towards that, rather than everybody kind of going at their own goal and working against each other.
We're visiting with Jessica Stalder, City Council candidate in Ward 1, seeking the 4-year term. You're going head-to-head against the mayor. What do you feel are some things that differentiate you two from your perspective? What do you feel kind of differentiates you from what the way Mayor Somerville's gone about some things? I'm just curious. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if you're going head-to-head, you got to have something that kind of makes you stand out a little bit, Jessica.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a tough question because, I think that she does a great job in her role as mayor, and it's tough to run against an incumbent. So what's important to me that I think differentiates us a little bit is, obviously we have certain topics that we're more passionate about.
Right.
I work with seniors a lot. She has other topics that are more important. And she has a lot more exposure to these topics because she has been mayor. What I really think my strength is I run a business. I have a lot of experience. I have a business degree. So when I'm making decisions, I'm coming from that place. And I know on city council you don't have to have that type of experience. But I think that's where I can really stand out, is just making good, solid business decisions.
And it almost seems that some people would prefer kind of a business background to maybe approach it from a business perspective almost, rather than just, not having that background maybe doesn't help you out per se. Have you gotten that sense maybe in talking with business folks in the community at all?
One thing that I talk to business owners is I think the city needs to run itself like a business.
Okay.
We got to make sure that we're making more money than we're spending, and sometimes that involves tough decisions. And I don't know. I guess in my position, everything doesn't always come down to money. Sometimes it comes down to finding creative solutions. When you're hiring people, you have a certain budget. You can pay them a certain amount, and they might be able to make more somewhere else. But can you give them the schedule that they need, or work with something else that's important to them? Find those different kind of solutions. It doesn't always have to be about money, but just really look at what people need. And that's part of a business too, is managing those resources. I think, I really have gotten to know a lot of people on the city staff, and they have great ideas. So you got to value those ideas and value people, and that's going to help your bottom line as well.
All right. Anything else before I let you go here? Kind of your last appeal to voters on the airways before Tuesday. And again, I know some people have already had their absentee ballot, or they've already gone and voted early, but there's there's still a large majority of folks that are waiting to go to the polls on Tuesday. What would be your last message?
Awesome. Well, I hope to see you there. No matter who you vote for, it's important that you go out and vote. You can't complain about anything unless you let your voice be heard. So, I hope people go out. I think the 5th penny tax is very important, to the running of our city, and just be informed about the candidates and go vote. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to visit with me and everyone that's supported me, whether that's through actually helping me address envelopes or whatever, or understanding the time constraints. This has been an awesome experience, and I look forward to being on the city council.
Appreciate the time this morning again. Good luck on Tuesday.
Thank you.